So you love someone all your life, lost them, and now you're just supposed to start over again in your 40s?
Yeah, we know no one wrote the rule book for dating after divorce.
That's why today at Fix Your Fate, we're about to get brutally honest about love, loneliness, and starting over in your 40s.
But before we attempt to fix your fate, we got to fix ours first. I'm Matt.
And I'm Ashley. And I believe the purpose of life is growth, and the purpose of relationships is to facilitate that growth.
And I believe that relationships, you can start at any age, any time. You can have as many as you want. There's never a bad time to get started again. You can always start over. Have the courage to continue to start, regardless of your circumstances.
I love that. I believe you can start over at any age. It just brings different sets of challenges, different sets of problems, depending on where you're at that age.
Yeah.
Because I feel like every phase of life, every kind of, age group might have a different set of challenges they face when they're starting over.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're all going to be different.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
All right, today's guest is proof that starting over doesn't mean starting from scratch. Joe Coria spent 5 years raising capital and managing real estate investments, but don't let the numbers fool you. He's also an actor, a communicator, and someone who's learning how to date again in the Gen X lane. From navigating post-divorce shifts to figuring out what connection looks like, Joe's been through it, and he's bringing it all to the table. Let's get to it.
Beautiful. Joe, we're happy to have you here today. We're really excited for this conversation.
Yeah, I'm happy.
We know you're about to absolutely unload on us, including the audience, maybe.
Yeah.
Be nice to the audience,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
more so on us, but we're really excited for this conversation. How about you kick us off and tell us all about your story?
Yeah, so thanks for having me. And I don't know how conventional this is going to be in comparison to others' divorces. I don't know if, I just kind of don't care anymore. And I think it's so important to be authentically myself that I'm just going to share the story. I was dating and so dating for 19 years, married to this woman for what would have been my 10-year anniversary was actually last Sunday. So still a little bit of healing, but we were together for 20 years. We met in our 20s, we met in college. We were best friends. We spent a ton of time together. We watched all the same TV shows. We went on adventures. We got married. We had kids. And then things just kind of changed for a lot of reasons, right? Like definitely there was my mental health dwindled a little bit. I think that there was a dark time. I think maybe a lot of us might have gone through it, and it wasn't myself. I think that was tough for her to have that patience or that compassion or that understanding maybe. And so then I started to feel unvalued or unseen. I think I spent about 6 years on and off on the couch.
Oh my God.
Yeah, we had great kids, right? Like, so we were as best parents as we could be. And then it came out that I was unfaithful. So that was one of the, it's not an easy story to tell. I'm definitely not going to get into depth about it, but I was unfaithful. And I think that actually is the interesting part of leading into the dating part of it, because, ultimately it ended up in a separation. And while, obviously I'm the betrayer and she's the victim, I think that in our marriage, there was a lot of betraying happening, right? And betrayal doesn't have to be unfaithfulness. There's, neglect can be a form of betrayal.
Emotional abuse.
Yeah, emotional abuse, right? And I think that went both ways. She definitely loves to throw that word out more than I do. And, I really don't want to make this about her. I can really speak on my part. But yeah, I'm in a place where I'm healing. We have to co-parent, so we have to see each other. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I realized when I went into the dating world that I wasn't prepared for, was that, when you meet somebody, you hope that they're over their ex, right? And that's in the rear view, right? Like, obviously, we all want them to be over their ex. Well, how do you deal with the situation where their ex is going to be in the picture forever because they have kids, right?
That's so hard.
And that was where I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going into uncharted territory right now, right? Like, how do you... Well, number one, after a separation, the person that you've been with for 20 years doesn't want you anymore because you fucked up, right? Yeah. How do you regain the confidence? The person that knows me the most doesn't want anything to do with me.
Yep.
So how do you sell that to somebody new, right?
And to yourself.
To yourself. It's just like, I'd probably rather stay in bed, you know what I mean? And just, that's the biggest part of making that first move is, at first, it might not be serious. You might just be looking for a companion, and not a long-term companion, just someone to spend time with. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're thinking, shit, I'm going to have to fucking tell somebody what I did, right? How will someone accept me for doing this to my person, mother of my kids? And like, I feel like I'm already pushing water uphill.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And also not assume that they're going to.
Well, that's
the
it.
same.
Like, I mean, I've gone through a great deal of work in trying to figure out who I am, why I do the things that I do. But there's going to be a lot of partners that I'll meet that might not have that same awareness, right? And so I personally, I feel good about knowing I'm not the bad thing that I've done, right? It's a mistake. It happened, you know, however many years ago, but I'm not that person, right? And so it's just tough because you want the other person to see that in you, and really it's not in your control.
But I like that the first step is seeing it in yourself.
Well, yeah, and that's what
the awareness is so key.
Yeah, that's what I come to find is that I think I had to learn to date myself before I could properly date others, and if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? Yeah. So
can you go a little bit deeper into dating yourself? What does that look like?
Well, you know, dating yourself, obviously, you know, there's this thing, right? Your confidence is shattered after a separation. And so there's a moment here where you have to fall in love with yourself again, right? All the good and the bad, right? Isn't that what it is, right? You go to a wedding and they say,
love both sides of you.
Yeah, love is patient, love is kind. So you have to be kind to yourself. You have to be compassionate about what you've done that you're not keen on. And yeah, like I know it sounds like such a cliche, but you know, someone put it really well with someone that I was dating was, they were like, I love this for you because no matter what happens in your relationship, if you separate, you're both going to be fine. And that relieved a lot of pressure, right? I think for the first little while, you're thinking about, for me anyways, I'm thinking about, oh my God, am I going to be alone fucking forever? Is that what's going to happen? Are my kids going to be like, my dad's that single dad dude that, you know, people make fun, like Jesse Katsopoulos or something. You know what I mean? Right?
Hey, Jesse had Becky.
Well, yeah, no, who was it that always dated? Joey. Okay, yeah, I'm going to be Uncle Joey.
Yeah,
Oh
in
gosh,
Fuller House, he did marry.
Yeah.
But yeah, in Full House.
Right? And so you think about that and you worry about that. And I don't think that's a great frame of mind for dating, wondering if you're, right? Because then you're just dating to see, am I, is this even a word? Companionable, right?
Yeah.
Like, am I partnerable? Am I, you know? And so it's a whole other world to think about. Am I even fuckable?
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So that's actually low stakes in comparison to the whole relationship part of it. So
you're projecting fear as well.
Well, that's it.
Actions and
Yeah.
connotations and the whole
Oh my
thing.
gosh, it's the worst. It's been, I don't want to say it's the worst because it's been a difficult year, but also maybe one of my best, right?
Why?
Like,
One of your best.
well, I think that when you're at rock bottom, there's nowhere left to go.
But up.
And so it's been growth.
That's it.
Right? There's definitely something exciting about being able to rewrite your story, and separation is just one part of that.
It's one chapter. That's it.
Well,
It's just
I
one
think that
chapter.
when people get separated, they're like, "This is the end of my life," or "This is the end of
It's the end of the world.
It's actually the beginning, and I don't know if that's a mindset thing or if it's actually the truth. But you know what? At the beginning of the separation, you know, I was like, I'm never going to love again. Now I'm like, I'm never going to fucking divorce again. That's for sure, right? But you know, there's a lot that comes with it that brings on this fear mindset, right? And it's just like, do I even want to do that? And so I think it's so important that in this year, in this journey, I've taken the time to kind of understand myself and hold myself, because in the end, there's no guarantee that I'm going to be with someone long-term or short-term. So I have to be able to live with myself. And I think that's where it started for me. So
what part of your journey, what you've recently been through, do you think that Gen X as a generation, as people possibly starting over again in their 40s, even people in their 50s, like what do you think that people can relate to from your story and might want to take to heart? Any lessons that you've learned?
Yeah, I think that there's more of us than we think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like
think
you're not alone.
No, and I think that we're feeling a lot of the same stuff. So for the people that I've spoken to, actually my friends that I'm really close to, or other singles that I've met that have been coming out of separation, we say a lot of the same things, that we're insecure, that our confidence has been shattered, that you know, like we have to learn how to embrace technology, right? And we have to like create these these profiles and is like, you know, is it real? Does that really in 500 words or less, does that actually describe me?
Well, you got to worry about catfish too.
Yeah. Right. And it's happened. I was just telling these guys off camera that one of the first dates I went on from apps turned out this girl was like almost my cousin. So
that's intense.
She's like, "Oh, you're from Mississauga. You might know my cousins. I got a lot of Filipino
What are
cousins."
the odds?
And she started naming names, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" Because I'm really enjoying this conversation right now. Are we fucking cousins? This is like, you know, we talked for like a week, and we were gonna go have dinner, and then all of a sudden it turned out we share cousins, and it was like, oh.
Thank God you found out before the next steps.
Yeah. And we still went out to dinner as a friendly conversation, and she ghosted me after, like not even. But yeah, that was an interesting situation. Wow. So yeah, wow. Kat, my friends call her Cousin Kat.
Yeah.
Cousin Kat.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, let's transition. So, Joe, tell me, how has your definition of stability and connection changed since your separation?
That's an interesting one because, you know, when you think about stability, I think most people think about financial stability. So I've just been in the middle of Operation Sell All My Shit, right, to pay off our debts and start over. Yeah. And, you know, you really get used to having a dual income to provide. So on one end, I've got to provide for kids now as a single dad. I've also got to provide for myself as an independent man.
Yeah.
Right. And then, you know, we're not even getting into the realm of emotional stability, right? Or stability of self. And I think that one of the things that I can totally recognize, and I hope the dating world out there is doing the same work. But when I think about connection, the first thing I think about is my connection with myself. And so when I talk to people that I'm potentially thinking about dating, I say to them, you know, can we keep this as low stakes as possible? Can we have as much fun as we can, really get to know each other? And at the least, what I hope for you is that you're going to get to know yourself a little bit more. So if you learn a little bit more about yourself and I learn a lot more about myself, we're still winning. Does that make sense?
That's actually super cool. I've never thought about dating like that. Like your
is the most important thing, so that I can be authentic and show up for myself and not walk away from a date thinking, fuck, why did I say that? Do you know what I mean? Did I really
I do that over all the time.
Did I really say that? I wonder if she's going to call after that.
Yeah.
You know
I overanalyze the shit.
See this person again, right?
Yeah.
And so I would rather say, I said that because I fucking meant it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And be okay with that. And if that's not acceptable from her, then that's not the right person.
So you talked about instability, one being financial as an offset of your divorce. I'm wondering if it was common to you and you think it's common to people going through a separation or divorce in your generation to be thinking about retirement planning at that point when you're in your 40s and you divorce versus being in your early 30s or in your 20s. Is it something that's come up for you?
A little bit, because like being in the world of real estate investing, I had a portfolio that I was working towards for retirement. That was going to be a shared portfolio. Part of that plan was to pay for the kids' education. And now we've sold almost everything. We do keep a couple properties together for the sake of paying for the kids' school. But yeah, it's crossed my mind. Maybe not as much as everyone else, because the real estate world is, you know, multiple streams of income and that kind of thing. So I still feel secure in my in what my financial stability will look like in the future. I think what I think about the most is that going to be enough for whoever my partner is going to be? So is this going to be enough for the both of us, right? And so, you know, when you start to think about blending families, which is far down the road and not on my mind, right? But when you start to think about that stuff, you know, we start to bring together what we have left, right? And so is what's mine and what's hers ours, or is what's mine and is what hers, right? And so that's going to be navigated around, I guess, in the future when we get there. I mean, I hope to, I've always had hopes to retire early. If that makes sense, right? And not just from a lifestyle income, from an income of abundance. And so, yes, have I thought about it? For sure. Does it make me nervous? Not so much, but it does make me feel like I've got a lot of work to do that I had already done.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So, Joe, these days, where do you find the realest connection? Is it online? Is it offline? Or like somewhere totally unexpected?
You know, it's a little bit of everything. Does that make sense? That it's what creates the full picture. So I think I find the deepest connection. I'm a little bit of a slow burner, right? So I think you're going to have access to me in a couple sessions or a couple get-togethers.
Like, I slow burner. Do you mean you have these walls up and I have to
So it's
slowly
not gonna-
melt them down with a flamethrower?
Yeah, something like that. Well, it's just not going to happen in the first date. That's what I come to understand is that, like the depth in me won't be released all in the first date, or else it'll be overbearing and coming from a place of overthinking.
Have you ever had somebody that's been able to do that with you? Like, have you ever had that special someone that's just like you hit it off in the first go?
You know what? Interestingly enough, I have met somebody in a public place at a nightclub actually.
Okay.
And we just kind of hit it off. And so it's
they
like,
dropped the charisma bombs on you.
that was basically it, right?
Yeah.
Like there was definitely flirting. There was definitely connection. And then that just carried on. And so the more that person got to know me, the closer we got.
Gotcha.
That makes sense, right? And so, like I said, I find I have the most success and the most connection in an ongoing situation. And so when it's online and I'm meeting someone for the first time, it's going to take a couple conversations or a couple engagements to be able to really deduce, am I for this person or is this person for me? So, but yeah, the most meaningful connections have come in person, spontaneously when I least expected it and not trying for it. So I've done a little bit of both. I've gone out and tried to meet people, specifically going out for the reason of meeting people, and it didn't go so well. Not that it didn't go so well, it just didn't go in the way that I would hope for it to be. And then at the last, in a moment where you don't expect it at all of a sudden you just bump into someone and everything just kind of makes sense. So yeah.
Flows.
Yeah.
I've met some of the greatest friends that I have, IRL. In real life.
Yeah.
Ashley is one of them.
Yeah.
We met coincidentally just
Right.
at work, at our
And
workplace.
there's no way, and this is perfect because there is no way that you could get the depth of Ashley in one sitting.
No.
Right?
No.
If
Not
you,
a chance.
If you did, it would be a lot. Does that make sense? Because there's more.
You'd be sitting down for a while.
Yeah, well, that's the idea, right? And so I think that every interaction should be complementary, leading to having, and I don't know if this is my generation, but it's like having more information to make a better decision. Does that make sense?
I love
And
that.
So, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas
very
I feel like
reflective.
on the apps, it's like you're looking and you're just like, oh, I really didn't like that. Do you know what I mean? Or like, it's just like, oh, she's got too many pictures of her at the gym. Fuck that. I'm eating potato chips. Do you know what I mean? Right? Like, I'm going to swipe left.
You're like, I'm automatically disqualified.
Yeah, right. I'm automatically disqualified. And
Crack.
And I'm disqualifying this person. You never know. Like, that person could like dad bods. And they just, it's their personal preference to be
Yes.
healthy. I think what I'm really trying to say is that I don't think you can really get to know someone from just the profile. I think you can disqualify them if they put something up that's a red flag, but I think that you can't even really truly know someone in the first time meeting them, right? And so that's where I find I get my most success is if I have more exposure to somebody, then they can start to begin, and the more comfortable I get naturally, the more I'm going to be vulnerable. Right, and the vulnerability builds trust. I think
Absolutely.
that's like the biggest key that people are starting to understand. And so, you're not gonna know someone from your first interaction with them. It could be their first date.
Yeah.
So could you imagine they're nervous as hell?
Yes.
They could have just eaten something that they're allergic to,
Yeah.
and now they're sitting here like, okay, where's my EpiPen? Do you know what I'm
That's
saying?
me.
So
That-
they're not
that-
really
that-
in-
that- that's
they're- it's not
literally
that they're
me.
not into you; they're just trying to stay alive. You
And
know
they're
what I'm
like
saying?
this,
They're
and
just
they're like,
I
"Are
don't
you
wanna
nervous? I'm
I
not
don't want to
nervous."
embarrass myself in front of this person looking like a crackhead. You know what I mean? Just, why did I eat that piece of chocolate? Shit, So it's I think that. Going back to it all, I think that it's so important to have multiple points of contact. So, if you can be authentic in your app, that will carry on into your messaging. And then that will shine through when you meet that person in person. And then, don't overrule that person. Have a second date if you can make it that far.
Yeah.
Right? Have a second date because I think that there's more to come from that. Right? So I don't think you can really just understand someone or hold space for someone just from their app or from the first interaction.
Can be very diluting, especially for someone that has a rich interior life, right?
Yeah. And
Like, how can you?
and it's you don't know where that other person is coming from, and you can't control that other person. But to be honest, they might not be where you're at mentally, right? And they're gonna need time to show that. That first date, they're gonna be nervous. It's like a job interview, so it almost doesn't count.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, can we just sit through this and not make idiots of ourselves and then potentially see each other again?
It's a very compassionate approach. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Very
It's, you know, as much as I'd like it for every date to lead to the bedroom, it's probably not the best idea either, which is what I found. Right? So, yeah.
Can we hurry it up? I want to get to the good part.
Listen, I use my phone and I turned on the bed warmer and then just, electric bills are running. So if we get out of here, that would be great. Right? So no, not really that realistic. So yeah.
I think that's some really good advice, because I think people, they will literally just out somebody just because of something that happened on the first date, and that person might have been nervous. They're not them. It takes a lot of time for some people to actually open up correctly.
Absolutely.
And some people are just like, they're not themselves on that first date. Some people are just trying to be somebody that they're not.
No, for
because
sure.
They're trying to put on a show because they're trying to impress that person.
Yeah. And we're not going to ever be able to control that, but what we can control is understanding what we're seeing. Right. And having compassion and understanding for that, they're probably nervous. It's probably their first date. I mean, you might know that from the messages and that go back and forth and that kind of thing. But, what we really can control is our sense of understanding and our sense of self to see if, can I receive this information that I'm getting and be able to look past that, I think is the huge part. So.
All right, Joe, why do you think dating hits differently for Gen X compared to younger generations?
Well, I think the biggest part is if you go back to when I was dating, right? There were no
when I was this age.
Yeah, when I was this age, there were more situations to be around people that were dating.
So you had more opportunities.
A ton of opportunities. We were going out at that time, right? You could meet friends of a friend. Now, Now, your friends, where are they? They're married, some of them, right? Or they might be living overseas, and we don't get together in a group of 10 people anymore. And so how are you gonna, right? People our age don't go out. I mean, I've been fortunate to find places where people my age go out to dance and drink and party, but there aren't as many opportunities, right? And so you're not, you're really stuck if you work in a place where there's a lot of employees, if you date within your workspace. But if not, where else are you going to meet people? At the grocery store? Like I know that I'm not doing myself up.
That's
to
organic.
That's organic, but that's what I mean. That's organic. I see what you did there. But yeah, it's there's not as many opportunities, and so we're faced to use technology where some of us aren't versed that way. And like I said, the moment that you have an opportunity to create a profile, you don't sell something on Kijiji and you're just like, the leg's broken on this couch, and you know what I mean. So you're not going to say all that stuff. You're going to say just the good stuff. And are we really all just the good things that we'll put about ourselves? Do you know what I'm saying? And so I think that's the biggest challenge, is that we don't have enough opportunities to meet people that are going through the same thing that we're going through, when in fact there's more of us than we actually know. And I know that from, just navigating this dating world and talking to other people my age. It's so refreshing to find out that this thing I thought I was so smart about that I came up with is actually really just happening. And a lot of people feel that way, right? That lack of confidence, this fear of getting back out there. Damn it, where do I go to meet people my age?
Yeah.
Right? That's the hardest part. It's not even just people my age, people that are in my situation, right? Or people that...
How do you sift through all the people so you can find people that are accepting of your situation?
Absolutely. And generationally, let's face it, there's this image of silver fox dating like a young girl and whatever. And maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not as superficial, or I want to believe I'm not as superficial as other people, but there's more than physical attraction that I'm looking for. Right. And so if I go to someone that I'm physically attracted to and they're, and I'm 10 years their senior, are we going to be able to make this emotional, mental connection?
Yeah.
Right. Physical connection, great. That's a lot of fun. And it's very, it's an ego boost and all that stuff. But can I introduce this person to my mom at some point in time? Right. Are we going to be into the same TV shows? Could we go on vacation for an extended period of time? Is this person a right fit to meet my kids? And so I think that's a big part. Right now, I think one of the things that I'm navigating around that's different is that I have split custody of my kids. So I have rotating weekends off and 2 days a week. So for me, I'm not really interested in introducing anybody to my kids. Yeah. I'm not looking for a stepmom. They've got an incredible mother, right? Who I treated poorly, right? So I'm not trying to replace her. I have more than enough time in my single time to get to know somebody without having them introduced to my kids or have them go through another filter of failure. Never had kids? Sorry. can't have you. Do you know what I'm saying? Kids are adults, sorry, can't have you. Do you know what I mean? I really just want to meet someone authentically. And if we can't stop getting enough of each other, then yeah, maybe one day they'll meet the kids, right? And so, you know, and then sometimes you just never know, right? Like I met someone at my kid's school, a mother who's also going through this situation. And I'm like, damn, you're really good with my kids. Did you just give my kid a toy? Like, huh, right? And that kind of messed with me. So I'm like, you know, I'm trying to keep the kids out of the equation as much as possible and really focus on myself and who that person is. And like I said, if I can't get enough of that person, then maybe down the road, you know, they'll meet my kids. But the challenge is my kids are going through so much change. And I think that there are a lot of parents that are separated, that are thinking about this too, is how do I navigate this and not create further impacts to my kids' mental health with all the changes happening. So,
and that's a lot to carry simultaneously with everything else at the same time.
of course, naturally, most people will just not date, right? Because our kids are our world, but it doesn't help being empty. So
Perfect. Okay. All right, Joe. So we're getting deeper. We're starting to get deeper and deeper and deeper. So this one's all about. You're gonna love this one because Gen Z loves filters. They absolutely love the filters. So in a world full of filters and fast swipes, how do you build real trust with someone these days?
It's a tough one.
There's a lot of catfish out there.
When does vulnerability fit in? Right. So I said this earlier, is that vulnerability builds trust. But if you're like, you know, on your first date, you know, you're like, I'm in grade 5 and this girl, you know, told everybody that she caught me picking my nose and all this shit. Like, right. Like, when is the right time for vulnerability? Because vulnerability builds trust. And so in a world of fast swipes and filters, you know, really truly building connection, I know this sounds weird because now you're going to know how old I am and what kind of movies I watch, but really it's about being yourself. Yeah. I know that it's really hard because sometimes people don't love themselves. So they're like, who the fuck's going to love me? Right. However, if you, as much as possible, if you can authentically be yourself, then the person that's receiving you is making the best judgment from the information that they have. Right. And so if I'm just sitting there, like I said, you don't sell things on Kijiji and list everything that's bad about it. Right. But you have to be brave enough to share those things at some point. So if I make it to a second date or if I make it to a third date, that stuff's going to come up because I think it's important that we know that stuff exists. And I think more so it's important to know how have I dealt with that so that I'm not bringing that baggage into our relationship, if that makes sense. Right. And so I think it's so important to be authentic because a lot of times we'll go into relationships or we'll go into a dating situation not knowing we're still fighting ourselves, right? If I'm still fighting the things that I don't like about myself instead of taking accountability and ownership, if I'm still fighting myself, someone's going to lose. And the fight's between me and myself, so I'm going to lose. I'm not really down for that.
And you're also going to project that.
Of course, right? And so that's the tough part about being yourself is you have to be able to own yourself, love yourself, and acknowledge where your faults are and take accountability for, you know what, I know that's my fault and it's something that I'm working on and I'm not proud of it, but it exists. Or that's something that I used to deal with a really long time ago and now it's not really an issue. There are some times that you'll get, I guess, what we would call aftershocks or remnants of another life. So, yeah.
Do you think that Gen X specifically, you know, going through that process while they're in the middle of their lives, while their bodies are changing, their faces are changing, you know, their bank accounts are changing in accordance with that phase of life. It's tough, right? It's like the puzzle to love yourself is shifting while your time on this planet has shifted you.
It's nuts. Yeah. And I, you know, one of the things that I really don't care to share with the world, and I think the society is transcending to this being a little bit more acceptable, but our generation, if you said things like therapy, you know, and intensive therapy, people would think you were emotionally unstable. Yes. Now we're moving to a generation where it's like, please tell me you've gone through therapy or at least spoken to someone.
It's on every single dating profile. Every time I swipe by, they're like green flag. The man goes to therapy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh well, I haven't gone to therapy, so am I a massive red flag?
No, well, it depends, right? Like if you're secure in your oneness and you're secure in yourself, then that's great. One of the things that I was able to learn that I think was so impactful for me, and I think it's like everything happens for a reason. So learning this before I got back into the dating world was probably one of the biggest things that helped me. Is that, and if I tried to list them all, I'd probably get them wrong. But there's this thing that they call the 5 lies of identity. Okay. And so I think that I'm fortunate enough to have broken out of that, but we're not what we do. So, you walk into a date and the first thing someone is going to ask, or when they introduce you to someone, is, what do you do? Okay, but who am I if I didn't do that? Right? There's a cool study where they ask someone, like, what do you do? I'm a doctor. Well, no, what were you when you were 6 years old? Right? Who were you when you were 6 years old? You weren't a doctor then, right? So if I took away what I did, in occupation, would I still be this cool? Right? If I took away the shitty things that I have done, right? Could you look at me and not know if I've learned those lessons, right? So I've been unfaithful. Okay. What was the repercussion of that? If I took that away, this, whatever I've become since that regret wouldn't exist. Right? What's my greatest accomplishment? And sometimes we feel that, right? So like I've run a marathon, what if I didn't do that? Right? So we're not what we do. We're better than the worst thing we've done. We're not just the best thing that we've done. We're not what people say or think about us. Right? And those are just some of the things that I think people have to really analyze about themselves before they can go out there and make them part of someone else's life. I think is huge. So
That's beautiful.
It's almost like peeling back the layers.
That's it. Right. And
who you actually are. You're not your occupation.
Exactly.
You're not your mistakes.
No.
You're not what other people think you are.
No, that's the hard one for me. Yeah, for sure.
That is really cool. What'd you call that again? What was it?
The 5 lies of identity.
The 5 lies
Google
of identity.
And they'll come up and you'll be like, oh my God.
I'm gonna have to, you're gonna find your friend, both me and Ashley. We're gonna be Googling this after, and we're gonna bring it up on other podcasts.
It's so freeing for me anyways. And then, going back to the filter, if someone is looking for just those things, right? Like I'm not down to be with someone that's just like, what do you do? Because they're looking for financial stability. Because their retirement plan just walked out the door. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'm sorry, I had empathy for that, right? Like if your marriage ended and you were a stay-at-home mom and now you're going out into the workforce and stuff, I totally have empathy for that. However, I'm not looking for someone that's got their shit together financially to deduce whether or not they're going to be a great partner. I think that if they're a great partner and complementary to my personality, the rest of it will figure itself out, right? Because I'm just going to want to provide for that person, right? But if that person's looking at me just because I'm a provider, we might be missing some things here, important stuff.
I have something really cool that I learned from. I literally got myself a dating coach.
Okay.
I spent the money because I was really struggling.
Amazing.
And one of the things that he taught me is like you gotta get away from all these boring ass questions of what do you do, this, that, and the other. Everybody asks that.
Yeah.
So, and especially if you work in a profession that makes a lot of cash and everything, there's gonna be a lot of preconceptions.
I love that.
So what he recommended for all of us dudes that he coaches, he's like, pick something absolutely outrageous and introduce yourself as that. So whenever anybody asks me, what does Matt do? I don't say I'm a CEO of an agency. I don't say I have a podcast. Yeah. I don't say any of that. I say one of two things. I work at the zoo, and when penguins flip over, I pull them back up, and the girls love that one. Yeah. Or I say I'm a butt model, an ass model, or a hand model.
But that's hilarious. And they're like, dates, by the way.
They eat it up, and because it's so out of the ordinary, and some of them are like, are you being for real?
But it's so funny because the moment you said that, I'm like, what would I say in my mind? And I'm like, I'm a dentist to alligators. So
yes.
Like when you said the zoo,
yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
But this is what charisma is. This is what people need to start doing more. It's like if you stop being so serious and you can get looked at immediately as like, who the heck is this guy?
It's so
who the heck is this? What is this guy doing?
That.
But because you put yourself out there and you just made yourself like look bad.
Well, that's it.
You give that other person permission to be more authentically themselves,
right? And just see what they can do in the space of being creative,
right? So that begs the question of like, what is authenticity?
Yeah,
this is really important for our audience to understand. Like, what is authenticity? And what authenticity is it's the direct thing of, what would you do if you knew you couldn't get in trouble? What would you do? How would you act if you knew you couldn't get in trouble?
Yeah.
If you think about that question, that is you being authentic.
Totally.
So on your dates and all that stuff, like do that.
Are you leaving your shopping cart in the parking spot next to you, or are you bringing it back to the shopping cart house?
That's a really good question. That is one of my new screening questions.
I need to know. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
Is who are you guys when no one's watching?
Yeah. No,
That's it.
absolutely.
Who you are when no one's
and
watching.
so when we talk about connection, and I know I'm like, I really don't want to beat a dead horse, but that's the truth, is that if you can have a good connection with yourself and you can be happy with who you are, then whether you find someone or whether you don't, you're there. You should be happy in your oneness before you connect, if possible.
Yeah.
Right. So
you should be in a relationship, like you mentioned, with yourself.
yeah. You
You should be in a happy,
Yeah.
fulfilled relationship
I do.
with yourself.
I do take myself out. For
I was just like, take yourself on dates.
even when my marriage wasn't going well, I would make it of a point to take myself out on dates. I went on vacation on my own. I went to a wedding, and I was with a group of friends, my elementary school friends. But 2 nights out of that week, I'd take myself out to dinner to the fancy side of the resort, and it was just amazing to enjoy my own company. So,
What's one piece, like one-liner, really simple advice you'd give Gen Xers going back out into the dating world post-divorce?
go out and do it. You're going to learn something about yourself, and the more that you learn about yourself, the more you'll have to give. To be honest, right? And if you don't know about yourself, you're giving someone something you don't have.
Perfect.
So, Joe, looking back, when you first were separated and you were thinking about getting back out into the dating world, what's some advice that you would have loved to have had at that time, or some support that you would have really benefited from?
You know, I wish I had the confidence to just go out and do it and understand that there's going to be a lot of people that are the wrong people. You know, I think that it took me a long time to get out there, and I think being afraid of rejection was a big piece of it. But I'm going to be rejected a ton of times, and I'm going to be rejecting people a ton of times. So just go out, right, and do it, and really focus on learning about yourself, right? In every interaction, you'll just get better, right? And I wish someone had told me that this is more about getting to know yourself than getting to know that person, and hopefully they will get to know themselves as well. So but it never happens until you start.
Yeah.
Right.
Would it have helped you to have a mentor or a coach at that point?
I kind of did. I had really close friends that had been in the separation situation like a year or two prior to me. And so I did get some of these warnings, but it wasn't that person's, occupation. So it's not like they'd gone through the history and have seen the law of averages when it comes to dating. It was just from their perspective, which was fantastic. But yeah, I totally probably would have benefited from that because, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear and a lot of lack of confidence at the beginning. And yeah, I probably wouldn't have grown into the person that I am if I hadn't have gone out there and just put myself out there. But I was reluctant for a really long time. So, yeah.
Okay. You talked a little bit about that there's no in-person hangouts for people in your age group.
Yeah.
At this point, you mentioned there's not 10 people going out and just chilling the way that there used to be, right?
No,
If you could design the perfect ideal hangout for people in your generation, potentially just having gone through separation or divorce, or even just in general,
Yeah.
what would that look like to you?
Well, if I'm thinking I'm going to be meeting people that are in my generation in the same situations, like kids and stuff like that, and dropping kids off at school, and I got a job the next day that I got to go to. Number one, I'd probably be flexible in the hours. So start sooner in the day. So if it was like an event, start sooner in the day and then end by 9 or 10 o'clock or some shit.
6:30 p.m.
Right? Yeah, not a 3 a.m. thing unless it goes really well. Yeah. But the actual festivities of it would be cool for it to take place. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, people have a different energy on a Sunday afternoon and the sun is shining, and then it leads into night, right? On a warm day. I think it's definitely important to it not just be a nightclub. And I mean, I think it's great, right? To see people, there's a science of movement and stuff. We want to see how people dance, and if they're, a good dance partner.
See if they're a bad dancer.
Or a bad dancer, right? But
if they can actually get on the dance floor.
You got it. If they can actually go, or if they're hanging on the wall, right?
They're kissing the wall. They're like, ooh.
Yeah, right? Doing their 2-step along the wall, but never actually making it out onto the floor. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or am I the guy that's going to hang out in the smoking section the whole time? So I think that there's something to be said about a location or a situation that, could have music and alcohol involved on the inside, but also a patio setting. So if I'm really digging someone and I want to talk to them, is there somewhere that we can go to sit? And is this going to be in the daytime or the nighttime, and or both? Right? Definitely atmosphere has a lot to do with it. because I don't want to just be somewhere like, I mean, you know, we all have these dive bars that we enjoy. However, the people make the atmosphere at a dive bar, not the, you know, the decorations or the setting. So if there was something that mimicked, and we're fortunate because we're from Toronto, right? So there's lake right there. But if there was somewhere where there could be water involved, I think that would put me at ease for sure. Because, I mean, you know, we're our best selves when we're on vacation. And so if we're in a situation or a setting like that where we're on the water, I think that would give us the ability to have more authentic conversations and to stay a while. Very cool. If that makes sense.
Very
so,
cool.
yeah. But definitely being able to hear the other person talk is huge.
Very
so,
cool.
yeah.
So just to go back to the dating app one more time.
Yeah.
So what's the biggest dating app win that you've had? And the biggest dating app, are you fucking serious?
Yeah. Well, we kind of joked about it before, but the biggest fail was, you know, finally get swiped by someone, having a good conversation with someone. Turns out they're almost my cousin. Was the biggest fail. Was the hugest fail. Yeah, cousin Kat is the biggest fail. I'm sorry if you're watching this, Kat. You were super cool. I'm just not trying to have Targaryens. Do you know what I'm saying? So, you know, but the biggest win actually on one of the apps, I just decided to do a test, and I took down a couple pictures and I added memes of what I thought was clearly described what my idea of a healthy relationship or healthy dating looked like. And the moment I changed my profile to that, then I started getting likes. It was fucking weird. Definitely not, you know, the aesthetic I was looking for, but definitely healthy-minded. So it felt like it was a move into the right direction. And, you know, the memes just kind of said things like, you know, I'm looking for a relationship where communication is key and I don't have to guess, right? I'm looking for a relationship where intimacy is something that we can talk about rather than something that we're afraid
something
of.
that you beat around the bush.
Yeah, right? And so it was just a bunch of these memes, and all of a sudden the class of potential partner that started to come up was definitely of a higher level of education, a higher level of understanding, a higher level of compassion. And I think that was a huge win. So it wasn't, you know, my pictures suck. It was, this exactly clearly dictates what I'm looking for. And I think that as soon as someone saw that and was like, oh, that's what I'm looking for, I'd have better quality of conversation and people that I was meeting.
I think you're going to get a lot of people copy you, Joe.
Yeah.
I think everybody's just going to get on the meme game, and you're going to see every profile after they watch this episode, everybody's going to be like, that's the hack.
It was, you know what? It was crazy because I read these things and I was like, oh my gosh, this is healthy love. This is something that I didn't have before. And if I'm going to go and I'm going to fucking risk getting another fucking divorce, I need them to know that this is what I'm looking for. And then I personally feel that it's less likely to happen if we're starting on the same stage. So, yeah.
It's actually bringing humor into it as well.
Yeah.
Like one of the best things like that I learned from one of my dating coaches is that literally just add some humor to your profile, add some vulnerability.
Yeah.
He literally told me, he's like, dude, just add something where you're falling on your face or you're doing something just outrageous to your profile.
You know what?
And people are going to resonate with it so much more.
I would say that was the other addition to one of my profiles I tested. I just like, there were all these, like, they're all the cliches. Do you know what I mean? Not looking to waste my time. I don't want to play games, all this shit. It's like all the profiles say that. Now I don't look at other guys' profiles, so I have no idea. But I look at a lot of girls' profiles and it's a lot of the same language.
Yeah.
And, you know, on my Facebook dating profile, I put, I'm new here. Can anybody tell me how to get to happiness? My daughter says it's just around the corner from Sesame Street. And the moment I changed my description to something less serious, again, I get a couple swipes here and there, you know, and I think that is a huge part of it is sharing that humor, because that's a part of me that I want people to see.
Right.
But when I first started the dating apps, it was all serious, and it was all like, you know what I mean? I'm the father of 2 great kids. I'm not looking to replace their mom. And it was just like, man, I wonder how many people's profiles sound like this. Yeah. Right. And so when I changed it to, I really don't want to take myself too serious. I really just want to have fun and get to know you, but get to know myself more. Yeah. Right. And so I went from silly to actually clearly communicating what I was looking for. Right. The class of likes started to change again, albeit it wasn't a ton, but it was still different. So, yeah.
Right. Joe, we have a question from one of our followers in the form of a voice note. Okay. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
All right, so here's the scoop. I'm a 40-year-old guy. I just jumped into online dating for the first time. I've been married for about 17 years and just got divorced.
Okay, Joe, What do you think about that?
You know what? I think it's a valid question. And especially if you've been like in a marriage for 17 years, like I was dating, I was with that person for 19 years, married for 10. And it is a whole new world because you're not that person that you were when you first started dating. Does that make sense? Right. So like when you're first dating, you don't have a divorce under your belt. Now you're coming in with it. And whether you decide to look at it as baggage or experience is going to be on you. But one of the best pieces of advice that I actually heard that I carry with me is that people that are separated can sometimes, not all the time, but can sometimes make better partners. And this is why, because they don't have the time to fuck around. They don't have the time to rebuild. They don't have the time to pick the wrong person again. Right. And I know when you're like 16 and it's like, well, now you know what you don't like. Do you know what I mean? But that's exactly what it is. And we don't like at our age, and like I'm 43, gentleman is 40 years old. We don't really have the time to fuck around. Neither does the potential partner that you might meet. And so if you go into the game thinking about that, you should be excited. When I read that, I was like, you know what? That's totally true. I would love to date someone that knows exactly what they want and for that person to be me. Right. And so, just go out there, be excited. There's going to be a ton of people that you're not into, but the person that's into you and the person that you're into, when you find that person, it's going to be totally worth it.
Yeah, fireworks.
Yeah, that's it. So.
Thank you so much, Joe, for being here today and coming to share all your experiences and knowledge and just everything. Just being here with your whole heart.
Thanks for having me. And I don't know if this is dangerous advice to give to someone because, I haven't made it across the finish line, but I'm definitely enjoying the experience and immersing myself into it. I'm very, very blessed that I have other friends that are going through this situation, but most of us won't. If that makes sense. And so, if I can be in environments and I can add value where people are feeling alone or are lacking confidence and having fear, then obviously I want to be able to help. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I think it's better to start during the journey is when we actually get the meat and potatoes and we get the real. Versus like you're at the end, you've accomplished everything, and then you're reflecting back. It's just like we're not going to get as real of a conversation,
No, for sure,
and we're not going to get the real advice that people can actually find value in because a lot of people are going through it. They're not at the finish line.